It could be. It is. Holy cow. Welcome to another broadcast of Bricks Behind the Ivy.
Hey, Cub fans, welcome to another episode of Bricks Behind the Ivy. Thank you so much to our awesome sponsors, Wrigleyville Sports, the best sports store in Wrigleyville, and Yaggy Road Roasting Company, based in Valparaiso, Indiana, serving cups of coffee just as special as the moments you drink them in.
Hello, welcome to Bricks Behind the Ivy.
Hey, Brickheads, it's Jeff Candid, Cubs Vergauskas, joining you on a Sunday evening, giving you the Bricks Behind the Ivy live experience. Yes, welcome to Bricks Behind the Ivy live. Yeah, so uncut, unkempt, and late in the evening. Here we are on Sunday, hopping into the official opening week coming this week. Yeah, really excited to finally see real games again for the Cubs, as we already got a little bit of a cup of coffee last week with the Dodgers series out in Tokyo. Hope wherever you're joining, you are having a good evening. You had a good weekend. You're not suffering from the Sunday scaries as we look to preview the Chicago Cubs team. Pat Eriksen, my Harry Caray extraordinaire and co-host, might be joining us live from the Firehouse as he got called into a shift this evening that was unexpected. But if you have any questions, comments, or things you want to talk about with the Cubs, make sure you drop a comment wherever you're watching on Twitch, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Make sure you are leaving comments so that I can get back to you. Also, if you haven't, make sure you subscribe to the Bleacher Bunch feed, the Bleacher Bunch YouTube channel. Like the YouTube videos, comment on the videos. It's going to help grow all the podcasts for all of our different team members here, including the great Sarah Sanchez, my good pal and newest friend, Mr. Danny Rocket, the Sun Ranto man himself, and also everybody else, Mike Waller, Pat Eriksen, Michael Cotton, everyone else that contributes to the Bleacher Bunch on a regular basis. I do see you, Jesus Mauricio. What's up? How's it doing? Thanks for hopping on tonight. Really appreciate you joining us on a Sunday evening. So with the Cubs starting this week, it's hard. It's weird. I always hate that experience with the Cubs and opening day in general, where there is that day off after the first game of the year. And I just read on Instagram, actually, that the Cubs have a .543 historical winning percentage on opening day. So more than half the time, we've seen our beloved boys in blue get a victory on opening day. But still, opening day has technically already happened, while it also hasn't already happened. I feel like that's, kind of confusing, if you're listening or watching. But if you follow the Cubs, you know what I mean. Cubs played the Dodgers on a 2-game series last week in Tokyo, which all in all was a really cool event. Danny Rocket this week had on the Bleacher Bunch show, Bleacher Jeff, who was at the games, and he got to talk about his experience. And I would suggest you check out that video, check out the audio podcast, and get an idea of, what the experience was like. But if you watch these games on TV, you'll notice immediately, especially in the exhibition games, that there are different ways of cheering in baseball in Japan and different interactions, different culture. It was really a cool event on that level. However, in hindsight, I just wish these games didn't count. And for the Cubs, it actually counted as 2 home games. So the Cubs only have 79 home games this year with 81 left on the road. So losing 2 games at beautiful and historical federal landmark Wrigley Field feels like we've lost something. I personally feel like I've lost something major, because there is nothing better than baseball at Wrigley Field. And I just saw this week, if you didn't see Bleacher Nation's new podcast, go check it out. It's really good stuff, great content. Everything that, Michael and Brett write and put out has so much care. You can see it in the writing, and really they're an inspiration to myself. And go check it out. Their podcast is also great. But Michael gave Brett an ultimatum of no more beer ever in the bleachers or no ivy in the walls. And to me, it's such an easy choice. It's It's Ivy. You have to have the Ivy. And I think by this podcast name, you know that I was going to pick Ivy, Bricks Behind the Ivy. As you can see in the Bricks Behind the Ivy studio / my man cave, I've got Ivy draped all over. I got Ivy in the walls. I've got Ivy over here with my marquee. I've got some random Ivy dripping on other Cub stuff. The Ivy is such a huge historic part to what Wrigley Field is to me. And as Brett so cleverly put it, you could always drink a White Claw if that's what you need to do. Just don't get rid of that Ivy. But yeah, I suggest checking out that new podcast. It's brought to them by Ink and Law, and it's just a really nice one to add to your rotation on top of the awesome programs we have here at the Bleacher Bunch. So if you have not, if you're just joining us, make sure you're hitting that like and subscribe button. Audio podcast Bricks Behind the Ivy has its own feed. Also, we have the Bleacher Bunch feed where you get all of the shows in one spot, and you can join our Patreon for a bunch of extra goodies. And also make sure you're following us on YouTube. So Pat Eriksen was supposed to join me this evening, and we were going to talk a little bit about those first two opening games. And then we were also going to talk just our thoughts on what we're excited about, what we're not excited about for the 2025 season as we get revved up, and trying to get back into that glass half full approach of what are the things that are going to make this team very good, and what are the things that are going to push them to being a playoff level team. And there's a lot of national baseball writers, a lot of baseball folks that are picking the Cubs to win this division because they think that their offense is very good, or they think the pitching is very deep, or they have a lot of depth in different places they haven't had in the past. And I always like that extra perspective from the national media, because sometimes myself, and I'm speaking for others, I get to sit at home and comb over this roster and think about all these roster moves and just really get into the weeds, because I'm a big numbers guy. So like I'm always looking at numbers, and I'm always interested in, how they're going to project.
Nerd alert!
But, at the end of the day, like, the game is played on the field. And, I think it's nice to see on an outside perspective that people see some positives on this team, and they see how they've improved. And also we've seen, just a step back from the competition in this division. I'm not sure what the Pirates are doing. They have poor ownership, and they're wasting a window with Paul Skeens. The Reds, I think I'm the most nervous about, because I think Terry Francona brings a lot to the table. I think he's going to manage that bullpen, manage that rotation a little bit better. Andrew Abbott's already starting the year injured, but they still have Nick Lodolo and Hunter Green, and those guys, if healthy, are a really nice 1-2 punch for a team that has a really, really young but potentially powerful offense. The Brewers, are they going to continue to brewer? And yes, that's a verb now, because we've watched them brewer us for 2 seasons. So, and then, I think the St. Louis Cardinals are purposely taking a step back. They did not make a major league signing this offseason. They didn't commit any money. So they're not really planning to compete in their best case scenario. They're trying to get guys to have good years so they can flip them and jumpstart whatever they're trying to do for the next phase of whatever the Cardinals are going to be, whatever new version of devil magic exists. But what do you think? Do you think the Cubs have this complete roster? Do you think they're really going to run away with this division? I would check out, we did a season preview here at Bricks Behind the Ivy. If you're new to the show, or if you're not new there, we did one with Cole Wright last week, and it was right before the Tokyo series. And we talked about what we thought about the team, and Cole put them at like an 89 win group, and he said that he didn't think that he was as high as them as Pacoda was. And I went above Pacoda. I said the Rogowskis meter says 92 wins in 2025. So that's a really optimistic approach, but I thought that there was a chance, depending on what the Pirates do and what the Brewers and the Cardinals do, that there might be some extra wins on the table for the Cubs. And they also are positioned to add to this club pretty significantly at the deadline, which will get them a few wins, from July on. The whole thing is kind of hanging on them not collapsing in May, or maybe this year collapsing in April, as they have as was stated on the Northside Territory podcast with Sahada Sharma and Patrick Mooney, the hardest schedule or hardest month in all of baseball, all of the months of all the teams, the hardest month matchup wise is the Cubs April. It is a gauntlet, and surviving at around 500 in April is going to be a nice victory for this team. But it's going to be painful because a lot of these games I think are going to be very close and they're going to be decided by little tiny things. So it's going to be potentially a pretty tough start to the season and tough to watch type of games as they face top end pitching, top end offenses, and what is really a fairly deep NL. And I'm super excited. I just saw that Mr. Pat Eriksen's available, so let's bring him on live from the Firehouse.
What's up, buddy?
How you doing?
Doing good. Yep, that's my my office for this evening. So yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So what's going on?
That's not a metaphor for the Cubs are going to truck through the NL Central. That's an actual fire truck back there, isn't it?
You're dang right. There she is. We're going to be laying on the air horn all through 25.
There you go.
So catch me up. Where are we at?
So we were just talking about how opening day is coming again.
Mm-hmm.
And, maybe we can talk about the Tokyo series now that you're here, and we can kind of get some of your thoughts on it. As, ultimately, like, I'm throwing those two games out as mid-March games versus the best team in baseball on paper, and it's not close. So I'm not going to take too much stock in it, but there are a lot of little things that felt like deja vu all over again, and all of the little issues that have reared their head in the last 2 years as this team has gone back-to-back 83-win campaigns. What were your thoughts?
Well, I mean, there was some good, some bad. I mean, we all have to realize right away that it's 29 teams in the Dodgers. Okay. I mean, that's first and foremost. That's what we got going on there. Secondly, I mean, as far as individual performances, I was really, really happy with the way Shota looked. He looked really, really dominant in his outing. And I know there was a lot of backlash for Counsell pulling him out, after he had, 4 no-hit innings or whatever. But what folks need to realize, it's still mid-March. I mean, would it have been nice to get a no-hitter in Tokyo and all the pomp and circumstance? I get all that. But this is a campaign. It's like I always say, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And we don't need to be blowing out arms, March, April, May, if we want to go deep into the season. That's the first thing. Justin Steele, he was a little shaky, but again, they're all just trying to get into their groove. He was dominant when he needed to be. The hitting, I'll be honest with you, the hitting still kind of concerns me a little bit. Again, it's early, and like you just said, I'm not trying to put too much stock into it. But I do think that it did show a little bit of a highlight, as we still, in my opinion, need another big bat. Now, where that's going to come from, whether it's going to be now or it's going to be at the trade deadline come July, who knows? I don't know. But, we'll wait and see how that all pans out. It's early, and it is the Dodgers, and top to bottom, even on their bench, they're stacked. So I think we just got to take it in stride and go from there. I would have liked to see Suzuki get a little bit better. I think he was 0 for Tokyo. So I would like to see him kind of kick it up a little bit. But, I mean, everything's going to be coming up. And, and I mean, Gage Workman's been showing that he may very well hit this roster coming north. Nico's going to be coming back. I guess his rehab stints and staying back in Arizona to get some extra work in, that's been going really good. So all in all, I mean, I think we're going to be okay. It would have been nice to split at least, but hey, life moves on. They're down in Arizona, finishing everything else up, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, and thanks to Amazing Eric for dropping a comment in there. He said the Dodgers are in a different class, which they are. It's one of those things where you hope in a short series, if you see them in the playoffs, like you catch them on a bad week, because they're not going to have many bad weeks. That's an extremely deep roster. And they were without 2 probable Hall of Famers as well. They didn't play Mookie Betts or Freddie Freeman. So the offense gets even more terrifying
more deep.
Which, it shows you how deep they are, that they didn't miss a beat without 2 of those guys. It's just unbelievable. But yeah, I mean, Seiya had 2 home runs and 2 at bats in the spring training game this week. He did look like in Tokyo, and I'm wondering, I mean, going home, playing in Japan, he's from close to Tokyo. Like, it had to be a very meaningful thing for him to be there, and I'm sure he was I'm sure he was pressing. I know, like, Roki Sasaki and Shohei Ohtani had said in interviews that was the first time they had been nervous for baseball games in a really long time. And that's they came there and, they want to come back and justify, why they left the MPB and which is an extremely good league. And I'm sure it's in, like, say, I probably had family that hasn't seen him play live in a really long time at that game. So there's such a human element to baseball. And that's one thing I always try to appreciate as someone who struggled to be a good baseball player, because the human element was not the only factor. I was also bad. But I understand, what they bring to the table. So let's throw it out. Let's look back at the glass half full approach. The Cubs will thrive in 25. We're going to take a quick break here and show you guys a little treat. We have a message from Mr. Harry Caray, and when we get back, we're going to talk about the things that we're excited about for 2025 and the things that are making us chew our nails a little bit or fasten our seatbelts, as the great Pat Hughes would say. But first, a message from Mr. Harry Caray.
And now, another Deep Thoughts with Harry Caray.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to the Wrigley Fire Bar. Ooh, Grill, it's your old buddy Harry, hanging out down here, getting ready for the season. I got the Sandberg induction ceremony with the statue of, watching it on the TV. I'm just getting ready for some exciting baseball this season. I mean, we got Milwaukee. They always give me the hibbity-jibbities, but you never know. Cardinals, well, KB is always right. St. Louis is boring. Cincinnati, they're always going young, and I don't know what's going on in the Allegheny River over there with Pittsburgh, but I could care less, because all I care about is exciting Chicago Cub baseball when we're going to thrive in 25. Will Kyle Tucker bring his big old lumber and knock them out of the ballpark left and right? Will Shota Imanaga be dominant on the bump again with him and Steele as a 1-2 combo? We'll wait and see. Can't wait. But if you want to get all your exciting action and recaps and all the like, tune in to Bricks Behind the Ivy, where Jeff and Pat, they like to talk a little baseball and so much more. So click the link, subscribe, and enjoy. And from all of us here, holy cow, go Cubs! And so long, everybody.
Man, I just love that.
Yeah, he might have been overserved today a little bit. I had to kind of throw him out. We had to call him an Uber. It was a whole mess. But yeah.
Thank God for Ubers, because I'm sure there are many days in past Harry Caray lives where maybe we made some questionable decisions, but that's for Dutchy and the boys to figure out, not for us. But
he's always got his bar stool down there, and he's always ready to go. And someday he'll pay the tab down there, but I seriously doubt it.
So I like the moniker Cubs will thrive in 25. First of all, it rhymes, and I'm a big sucker for that. And it's not alliteration. Alliteration and rhyming are like two of my favorite poetic devices. But
absolutely.
I'll take the rhyme there. But thriving in 25, with the season approaching, I think it's time to think about things glass half full. We had 2 stinker of a games, not really exciting from a Cubs perspective in Tokyo. Wash the palate clean, get the mouthwash, whatever you need to do. Let's forget about them. Let's throw them out. Season starts anew again, Thursday, 9:10 Central. Yes, 9:10 Central, which I'm going to go live and watch along with whoever wants to join. So check out for information on that, because I love West Coast games as a dad, because my kids are in bed and I get to watch all of it.
Uninterrupted.
Usually I've got like one ear pod in, like trying to listen to the game while like reading a story, which is extremely difficult, because then you're like trying to read quietly when you're when something's getting exciting, but then your kids they pick up on that pretty quickly. But yeah, 2025. What's one thing you're looking forward to, Pat?
Well, I'm looking forward to getting out of the ballpark, first of all. I mean, I'm hoping, I'm just showing you that. See, even the helmet's rocking the Cubs logo. But,
There you go.
I'm excited for a few things. One, I'm excited to see Shota repeat his performance, his stellar dominant performance from last year, and he's showing all signs of that continuing. I'm curious to see if Council's going to be a little bit more aggressive. He was in Tokyo, and I think that last year with the lack of hitting, and you could talk about the Wrigley weather and all that other stuff. I think this year he's going to be a little bit more aggressive on pitch counts as far as when you're at the plate, as far as base running, et cetera. So I'll be kind of curious to see that. I'm definitely curious to see this Kyle Tucker thing. And I'm being very optimistic about it, but if you turn on any sports radio or in social media, whatever, people are already worried about, oh, is this going to be the big bust and everything? But I'm excited to see him get out there and knock a few out on a Waveland and Sheffield. And the other thing that I can really touch on, too, is the whole Dansby and Nico injury situations that they had last year that was highly evident in the plate, not so much in the field, but at the plate. And now that, again, being optimistic that they're, healed up and they're getting ready to go, that they both have much better seasons this year, seasons that we expected them to have all along. So that's probably a microcosm of what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I think I'm going to piggyback on that Dansby Swanson thing. Knowing some folks who have had hernias, knowing, how difficult it is to do things with a hernia. Dansby Swanson won a Gold Glove and also played, a spectacular defense and put up pretty solid numbers with multiple hernias. So if that core injury is fixed, I think we're going to see a little bit more slug from Dansby, which is really all you need added to what he brings to the table. Like, I want 20 home runs, 70 RBIs, and another piece of gold to put on his mantle, and that will be a really good season. That's a really nice floor, and people can complain about the contract or whatever it is. Yes, he's not a marquee player, and pun intended, but he is extremely solid. He is a great player on a team that raises a floor, and I think kind of what you said, and we'll talk about the downsides in a minute, but I think a lot of people are just looking for him to be more offensively given the dollar amount that he's being paid. I'm excited for Kyle Tucker. I'm afraid I'm going to fall in love with something we're not going to get to keep. So but I'm excited to watch. His at-bats are really, really good. He has a really good command of the zone. He takes a lot of pitches. He really knows what to pick, and when he does pick his pitch, he can take it the other way. He can hit for high average. He can hit for power. And I know that right field sucks, as the long story, but right field's going to have a lot more activity this year with Kyle Tucker, hopefully just depositing it regularly for Cub fans to cheer for. And I think the other thing I'm excited for is getting a real solid look at the kids. And I think this is the year where, God forbid, injuries. We'll probably see Owen Casey. We're likely to see Cade Horton in some capacity if he stays healthy. At minimum, bullpen, maybe a spot start here and there, and he's going to start the year at Iowa. Matt Shaw, he has the third base job. Show us what you got, kid. And I know it's going to be up and down. It's going to be tough to watch at times. And they're going to, just like his first game, tough error, not great. Second game, base hit, and a really dazzling play over at third base. That's what it's going to look like. He's going to have good days. He's going to have bad days. It's stacking the good days together and learning how the league adjusts to him. It's going to be really interesting. I love watching that big leg kick. It's such a, as I've said almost every time I talk about it, it's such a Dustin Pedroia throwback, and that's the Laser Show. It was one of my favorite non-Cubs for years. So very much looking forward to finally getting to see some of the kids that we did the non-rebuild for. Like, let's see what we got. Let's figure out what these things are. So unfortunately, we do have to sometimes look at the negative. So we're not going to call it negative. We're just going to call it worries. What are some of your worries about the 2025 Chicago Cubs?
Well, again, like I touched about earlier, is offense or lack thereof. And again, maybe it was just, a fluke with 50 million things last year, whatever the case might be. Just worried that our bats are going to go silent again, because we can't do that again. We can't have a drought like we did. That's the first thing. The second thing is the durability in the bullpen. We have added some arms, we moved some guys around, all that other stuff. That is what we have been lacking. And I mean, if you look at our starting pitching last year, phenomenal. Okay. But then it gets to the bullpen and, we were blowing games and making it a lot closer than it had to be. And, if we want to contend, and it's not just getting into the playoffs, it's not just winning the NL Central, albeit those are great things. We want to go deep. And in order to do that, one of the biggest pieces is that you need a strong bullpen, a sturdy bullpen, a dependable bullpen. And, and I think we've got the guys to do it, but I'll be honest with you, I'm always worried. I'm always concerned of what's going to happen. Now we do, and Jordan Wicks, Ben Brown are two good examples of those could be long reliever guys, spot starter guys. And that's good to have that kind of luxury, as well as some of the, the arms that you mentioned earlier. But that is pretty much my two biggest concerns. And I guess the only other thing is now that Council's got all of his guys. Last year, I'll be brutally honest, he made a lot of questionable decisions. Now, it falls on the players themselves for wins and losses. However, there was a lot of questionable choices made by Council last year. And I'm hoping now that he's got his guys, his coaching staff that he wanted, that it's going to get a little bit better. I mean, we've got to clean it up. There was too many times we were playing like little leaguers last year. And, but like I said, I would say the bullpen, offense, those are my two biggest worries, concerns going into the year.
Yeah, I think I agree in some of the things you said. And, I think he was dealt a tough deck of cards. And I'm not going to give him that much credit, but they asked a lot out of Hector Neris that I just don't think he was capable of doing. Right. And I'm not sure who in that pen you would have handed that role to. Porter Hodge emerged as being a guy that you could hand that role to, but until he did, there wasn't like this, blatantly obvious other option. They had tried, Hayden Wesneski in short relief. They had tried a bunch of different guys in that spot, and they all failed like Neris. And it really was just a highlight of a lack of, high-end velocity in that bullpen or strikeout stuff, which that actually walks right into my worry is we didn't move the needle enough on the things that I had set out for them to do this offseason. They didn't, it's not that they didn't move the needle on these things, but they didn't move it enough. Like they addressed them, but not in a better line. And I'll clarify, starting rotation. And I'm going to bring this up, and I've brought this up on several different Cubs podcasts, including our own. When they let Kyle Hendricks walk at the end of this offseason, that indicated to me that there would be options on the back end of this rotation that were going to be taken by probably someone younger. And then, or there was a potential that they were going to let those guys have their, push their way into the rotation, and they were going to add a bona fide top end of the rotation type arm. They didn't do that. So
no,
now
he's not been replaced. No,
we're sitting here with Matthew Boyd, who I think could be pretty solid and was touching 95 in Mesa today. So that's good to see. And he looked really good in the exhibition game in Tokyo. And then we have Colin Ray, who's going to fit in there as probably swingman. And, we're going to see, they're going to probably let Ben Brown run with that fist, which I'm excited about. But
yeah,
I don't know. I think if you're looking at strictly value, the contract value, if a $2 million contract was on the table for the Chicago Cubs to retain Kyle Hendricks, I'd sign that deal, and I would have used the money they spent on Ray and Boyd on the top of that rotation. And that feels like a missed opportunity. And that kind of brings me into my second worry about the pitching is that they need someone at the top of the rotation that can miss bats, because this rotation is not designed to miss bats, which is why they have they could win the Gold Glove at every position in the outfield. Elise Menaker said that on the Marquise podcast, especially Cubs Weekly. So I'm not going to take credit as being the first person who said that, but they truly could. Kyle Tucker has a Gold Glove pedigree in right field. PCA is a Gold Glover. He's probably that's his floor. And Ian Happ has won several in a row. So they could win. And they could win the team Gold Glove this year, because between that and then you add Michael Busch, Nico Horner, and Dansby Swanson, it doesn't matter what the third baseman and catcher does. That's such a huge volume of defensive run saves. Right. However, that's a lot of pressure on those guys if you're not going to have moments in which you're missing bats. And I really wanted them to get there is opportunity here. If like for some reason the Padres fall apart, maybe Dylan Cease is available at the deadline. It's going to cost. It's going to probably hurt Cub fans to know how much it's going to cost to deal with AJ Preller, and he's on a walk year. So, like, yeah, it's another guy that could walk out the door, but like he can miss bats. He's that top end arm. He makes the team better, which is why that 92 win projection I gave on our season preview feels like if they go get a guy like that, then that's very much on the table in this division. The back end of the bullpen, yes, they got Presley, and we still have Porter Hodge, who's looked fairly solid. And, he had a tough outing the other day where he had walked some guys, and some of the things that we had seen in AAA that hasn't really reared its head in the majors had showed up where, his command got behind him. But, at the end of the day, they still don't have enough swing and miss in this group. And they do have a lot of depth. They moved Eli Morgan down to AAA. I know I was one of the people groaning about that, but he's optionable. He did have an option, and it's just not the time of year looking at pitcher injuries to cut arms for the sake of cutting arms. Yes, have your best 26. I get that, but it's spring training numbers. Apparently, unless you're Cam Smith, spring training numbers don't matter. But Tyson Miller was a saving grace for this team last year. Has he looked great this spring? Absolutely not. He's looked awful. But maybe he's working on something we don't know, and he's just not bringing in the games. Jameson Tyone got shelled this weekend. Like maybe in his last touch-up start before he goes to Arizona, he wanted to work on fastball command. We don't know. We intimately don't know. The only thing I care about at this point heading into Thursday is, are they healthy? That is it. Yeah. I could care less about the results. Let's just get them to the season healthy. But those are and then the bat thing. This is turning into a longer rant than I thought. But when they got rid of Cody Bellinger, I always thought they needed Cody and we raised the floor because the guy we replaced Cody with is better than Cody Bellinger. But damn, this lineup would look good if we kept Cody. I just would. Yeah, and it is tough. If Seiya has those spells, everybody's going to have those spells, but is there a guy here, like a back end of this lineup of PCA, Matt Shaw, Miguel Amaya, and then Nico Horner and Dansby Swanson, kind of unknown of what they are offensively. Ian Happ having to be at the top of this lineup because of his ability to see a lot of pitches. It really feels like it drops off pretty quickly. It's interesting. A lot of national pundits are like, "This offense is so deep." I'm like, I sit and go, "Where? What am I? Am I missing something?" Yeah, those are the things that if the 2025 Cubs team is not performing, and it's gonna look terrible. And we can talk about this, and I want to get your thoughts on this. The Cubs' April's awful. It's
historically,
it is by the numbers. And when in the intro of the show, the hardest month of any team has in baseball this year. Yeah, the hardest. But then the easiest month, the weakest scheduled month in baseball this year is the Cubs' May. So they go from the worst month in all of the sport to the easiest month in all of the sport. But survive April. And right. Some of these teams we're going to see when it's cold at Wrigley, and they're going to be ugly games, and they're going to be 2-1. And you're going to sit there and think, is this the same offense as last year? And it sure as hell is going to feel like that, because we're going to see some of the best pitching. Some every team that we're facing besides the Athletics, who are much improved, is a playoff team from last year, and got better. It's going to be a tough road. What do you think about their April?
Yeah, I mean, April is, like I said, historically, and you probably also have done it. We've been, in the stands during April, so I can only imagine what the players are feeling, because it's not, hey, it's sunny and 80, give me a cold one. No, April is just it's a brutal month, and you pile on with the schedule that we've got in the month of April, and it's going to be tough. Now, there's always the folks that say, pennants aren't won in April. I beg to differ a little bit. You don't want to get behind that 8 ball too soon. But you are going to see a lot of, 3-2, 2-1, 2-0 games out there. My concern always every April is, okay, these pitchers are going to be looking great, but hey, you're putting that much, especially in Chicago, for example, you're putting that much strain on your rotator cuff and your elbow and everything. Top that with, wind chills in the 40s, and it's just, misty, and you don't want to have arm injuries going into May and June, so
No.
yeah, historically it's been bad. And I think if you can come out of it, 500 or better, I think that's a great start. I think a lot of teams, unless, your Floridas and your Arizonas where you're always, or in a dome, type situation, a lot of teams are going to be in the same boat as the Cubs are going to be. And I think you just have to right now be realistic, shoot for 500 and try to exceed it the best way you can while staying healthy. The other thing that the Cubs need to do, and you hit on this earlier, is that, as far as our offense is concerned, when we have a bat or maybe two bats that they're going through a slump, like you were mentioning, say, Suzuki going through that slump. In years past, not last year, but in years past, let's say Suzuki's having a bad, stretch of 3 weeks. There was always one player or another player that you can count on to come back, to kind of help out the situation, if you will. Water's pouring in the boat and he's bailing it out. But we haven't had that. And you're going to see a lot of that in April. You're going to see a lot of, the turtlenecks and the long sleeves and the double batting gloves and guys getting their hands rattled from, contact and all that. They just have to shoot for 500. They've got to maintain to be healthy. Again, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Maintain to be healthy. You're going to see a lot of pitchers, starting pitchers, especially with the Cubs. They're going to only go 4 or 5 innings maybe. You don't want to tax that bullpen, but at the same time, you don't want to blow out somebody's arm, and the next thing you know, it's April 20th, and hey, we'll see you come June 6th, because you're hurt. So that's what you just got to be really, really, really careful during that stretch.
Yeah, it's really gonna test them. It's gonna be one of those times a year where Craig Counsell's gonna win them some games or lose them some games, and that's what we gave him the big money, to do. And it's gonna be a tough road. And sometimes I think I have a harder time, being awake at this time of night. And thanks for joining us. But if you do need that extra cup of coffee, I would check out the links in our description for Yaggy Road Roasting Company. My guys over there, my boy Walker, working at the drip shop they have in the coffee shop right there on Lincoln Way. Best coffee I've ever had. My wife was a barista when I met her on campus, has a really, really good coffee palate. She will only drink this stuff now. Yaggy Road Roasting Company has high quality roasted beans, making the coffee you drink just as special as the moments you drink them in. So check them out, YaggyRoadRoastingCompany.com. Jameson Tyone actually has plugged them before and has drank them. So if you wanna drink like J-Mo, you're going to get some Yaggy Road Roasting. So
and that's
check
drink
them out
like
today.
JMO. Don't drink JMO. As in
Jameson. don't. Yeah, I mean, if you want Irish coffee, add the JMO. But
I could use some Yaggy Road right now at the Firehouse, because usually we're probably going to be up all night. So yeah, folks, get that Yaggy Road roasting coffee. I mean, Jeff constantly is talking about how amazing it is. I'm going to be placing my order. Give them a try, give them a shout out. Good bunch of guys.
Also, small business, man. Like there's not much better. We're theoretically, as this podcast, a small business supporting small business. There's someone working extra hard to follow their dreams, like us here at BBTI. So these guys they met on campus at Valparaiso University. Go Beacons. That's my alma mater. We'll love them till I die. And yeah, they went to business school, and then they stayed and started this roastery. They go like Costa Rica and Nicaragua, and they handpick the beans from the farmers they work with.
That's awesome.
Just incredible stuff. Like just so cool. And they have just been such a huge sponsor and proponent, and just have supported the show from when we had 5 listeners, and now we're approaching over 4,000 downloads, nearly 800 subscribers on YouTube. So thank you. It's just awesome. So, all right, I did this with Cole Wright, and maybe this will be how we end the show tonight. And thanks for everybody who's listening. If you haven't, hit that subscribe button, especially if you're on the Bleacher Bunch Network YouTube page. We are also on the Sunranto page right now, but trying to push everyone to the Bleacher Bunch page. So we can try to monetize this thing, and make sure we can afford an extra cup of Yaggy Road every once in a while.
Maybe the creamer. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Well, hold on. Let's the price of eggs. You want me to get cream? So with Cole Wright, we did over under, and I've been doing this for all the NL Central preview for a betting website not to be named because no free ads. Has the Cubs win total set as 86.5. Gun to your head right now. Do you say over or under for the 2025 team?
I'm going to go over slightly, but I'm going to go over. My prediction right now, and all my college buddies from NIU are probably slapping their foreheads. So Al, Joe, Keith, Doug, whatever. Anyway, I'm shooting for 88 right now. I don't think that they're going to hit that 90. If they do, God bless them. But I'm going to take the over in that, and I'm shooting for 88. What about you?
I said the Rogowskis metric. Pacoda has 91. The Rogowskis metric has 92. I'm going 92.
Okay.
I like the idea of pushing 90 wins. I like a lot about this club. I think that they will tread water better than teams in the past. And then when they get hot, they'll look really, really good. Yeah. And I'm hoping that the budget, how it's constructed and this is putting a lot of faith into Tom Ricketts, but the budget as it's constructed currently does have room to make impact moves at the deadline to supplement this group. So I hope that they are in a position where they feel like they can, grab one more piece to maybe challenge the Dodgers in the playoffs or something. I'm not saying that they'll get better than the Dodgers at the deadline because that's not going to be possible.
No, we're all realists. Yeah.
There will be potentially like a Dylan Cease. There will be Sandy Alcantara. Depending on what the Blue Jays do, there could be a Vlad Guerrero. Like, go big game hunting, man. Like, and then you add that to either Guerrero's like to this offense. You add like Dylan Cease to the front of this rotation. You do both of those things, and the only thing that costs is maybe some outfield prospect depth. James Triantos, and maybe like Matt Shaw's rolling, so you don't really care about that, and they're refilling the the machine at the draft this year. Then do it. You have the space to financially commit to that, and you're still well under. If we're using that first level of the CBT as this theoretical cap, do it. Just stop, and you won't go over again this year, and then you can really push it to the metal. And you give Vlad Guerrero and Kyle Tucker a taste of what it's like to play together, and they'll take maybe only $5 million a year because Tom Ricketts will talk them into being worth nothing because otherwise we won't get them. I'm just kidding, but
we're just here to break even, folks.
Exactly. That's I mean, come on, what does a beer cost in distribution land? $6,
right? Exactly.
$3-4 in a massive pallet. You're charging $18 for you the guy to spill half of it while he pours in that plastic cup or beer bat. Yeah, no, thank you. I think that's a good place to leave it. So then the audio crowd will still have a consumable 43 minutes. Thank you so much, guys, for hopping on a live episode of Bricks by Night. And Pat, thank you for hopping in from the Firehouse. And
the community was doing me a favor and keeping it quiet for a while for me. I have a feeling as soon as we end this, I'm going to be running. But folks, it was great talking to you. Shoot us messages anytime. If you got thoughts, questions, whatever. But hey, Thursday, 9:10, settle in, get ready for some Cubs baseball. And you know what? Let's do this. Let's start off this marathon right, and let's just go from there, pedal to the metal.
Yeah, let's thrive in 25 as Mr. Harry Caray would say. And this has been another episode of brought to you by our friends at Sports Store in Wrigleyville. If I am there at the home opener on the 4th of April, I will be stopping by Wrigleyville Sports and spending more money than I ever should. And Yaggy Road Roasting Company, make that coffee as special as the moments you drink it in. We'll see you guys next week on Monday for another episode, likely not live, but our first recap episode of the first 4 games of the marathon.
Let's do this.
Pat. All right, see you guys next week. Go Cubs.
See ya. Go Cubbies.